about that a lot because as a woman in agriculture, it is a traditionally male-dominated world, and for good reason, and that there's lots of reasons that it has been like that. And so as a woman trying to participate and be a part and a working part of that world, the difficulty sometimes is that balance because you're a mom, you're a wife, and you're a farmer.
Hey y'all, Tracy here with Just Dig It Farms, and today I'm at BOOZER Farms with Taylor BOOZER and her mom. Sonia is here too, and this is definitely a working farm, so we're going to be working and chatting at the same time.
That's right. We're going to be multitasking, so we'll see how that goes.
That's right. So I wore my hat and my work boots today.
We got the boots on.
Got the boots on. So that I can help her work while we chat.
There we go.
All right, very cool. What are we gonna do first?
Well, the first thing we're gonna do, we've got, we're harvesting persimmons right now. We are at the tail end. We can show you a shot in a minute of the trees, and we are just about finished with our persimmon season. So we've got, my goal is by like Tuesday of next week that there are no fruit. So within 3 more days, we hope to have everything off the trees. So we've got some big orders going out next week. And depending on who our customers are, some of them need to know, a box count based on weight. Others need it based on actually the pieces of fruit that are in it. So what we're doing now, the fruit size has come down. Early on, we were picking kind of your number one, really large, like apple size fruit, and we're down to some of the much smaller. So where I know my typical box count is usually about, our fruit count is about 65 in a box, this is going to be significantly more, and I need to be able to share that information with our customers.
Right.
So we're going real quickly. Mom's already got a black tote that's full of persimmons that she's harvested. So we're going to just fill a box and get a count so that we'll know, to be able to let them know. That way they know how many boxes they need for their order. Of course, we have native persimmons in our area, and that would be the little fruit that if anyone ever tricked you into eating it green, you'll probably never be convinced to eat a persimmon again in your life. It'll make you pucker up. It's got a tannin in it that will just suck all the moisture out of your mouth. So until they are just mushy, soft, ripe, they aren't much for eating.
That's right.
Coyotes and deer, wildlife love them. So they're a great wildlife attractant. But this is an oriental variety that is non-astringent, so it does not have any of that bitter, that tannin in it. From the moment that it starts to turn orange, it's already got a sweet flavor. And you'll get, so like this is, I don't know how well it shows up, but it's kind of a yellow orange, and you'll get that all the way down to like a red orange. So this fruit here would be more ripe than this one. It's going to have a higher sugar content. But the neat thing about the oriental persimmons is they are so sweet that even at this stage of ripeness, they're like candy.
Yeah.
They have a great shelf life when they're picked at this stage versus a little bit softer here, and slice up and eat it just like an apple, and it's one of my absolute favorites. We dry them, we do persimmon butter, but the best way to eat it is just right off the tree. Up. They're virtually seedless. Every now and then you'll have one that throws a seed or two, but for the most part they are a seedless fruit. So it's just an ideal, easy to eat, easy to cut up. We do a lot of persimmon smoothies at my house, and we also do persimmon bread, and that is wonderful as
persimmon bread, that's
yes.
my favorite.
Oh, it's so good.
Persimmons is one of my favorite fruits. It tastes like fall, don't it?
It does.
It has
and when
a
people
fall
say,
flavor.
Well, what is it like? It's like they want you to tell them, is it similar to an apple? Well, it's not like anything else. It just is like a persimmon. But it is like fall, and when you slice it open, a lot of times you'll get on certain varieties, they've got this little coloring flecks in them that almost look like cinnamon. And I think it really is almost a mental, like, to me, I'm like you, it is the flavor of fall.
It really is. It really is. And they're so pretty.
They are. They've been a great, so when we put them in at the farm, of course, I was familiar with them because of Dr. Powell at Pebbles from the Past and my time working there. And so I was really wanting to put something in to extend our season. In Alabama, a lot of times you get to this time of year and we just aren't growing a lot. You get lot more insect and disease pressure in your vegetables, like your squashes and cucumbers and things like that. Everything has just kind of given up hope from our hot, humid summer.
Yeah.
But we really, as a farm, to be able to be sustainable, and especially for our employees to be able to have, you know, year-round work, we need to be able to have some season extension. So this orchard is, I believe it's just finished its 8th season, and it was, you know, its 3rd before we started harvesting fruit on it, and it has been wonderful. It comes into a time of year that, quite frankly, is perfect to be outside and be harvesting. It's not miserable, it's cool. Now, a lot of times, some seasons, we're having to jump out here because we've got like a real heavy or long freeze, you know, coming in,
Right.
and we'll need to get them off a tree.
Right.
But the persimmons are great to kind of hang out on the tree and let us harvest along as we need to, so it doesn't require us to have a huge crew to be able to get them. And it's just a fun produce, a fun fruit to kind of add to what we've got here at the farm.
So this is Sonia.
Hi.
This is Taylor's mom. And we've been friends for a long time.
Yes, a long time.
When we first met, was it Morgan?
Mm-hmm.
Morgan and my Chase
We're in school
were
together.
in school together at the Christian Academy.
Elementary school. They
Yeah.
were little. My baby's going to have a baby.
Oh, yay!
Her due date's February 25th. But
That
it's
is
just,
so exciting.
where does the time go?
I
Stop.
don't know, but we've been
Yeah.
friends for a long
Yes.
time.
Great
And-
person. Great person.
Great person. And you're helping Taylor on the farm all the time now?
I do. I work full time. I do
Okay.
our spring and summer and fall. If we do fall CSAs, I oversee the boxes and make the boxes and deliver a lot of them. I made a delivery to a school this morning for Taylor of persimmons. So just whatever, just general flunky, whatever she needs done. I don't pick a lot. I will pick this.
Flunky. There is no one better. If it's something that we need graded to a specific quality and standard, no one else gets to touch it. It only goes through Mom's hand, because if I tell her this is what this needs to look like or the size this customer needs, there will be no variability. Every fruit will be the exact same.
I frustrate them sometimes.
That is great. That's the kind of partner you need.
I do frustrate them sometimes, because I'm like, no, not putting that in there. That's not what I want. So, but it works. It
That's
works.
great.
And it's good working with family.
Yes, and this is definitely a family of agriculture.
Yes. So y'all have fun. Enjoy. I'm going to count persimmons.
Yay.
My dad worked for Auburn. He was with the extension system and did research and education for primarily fruit growers all throughout the state of Alabama by the end of his career. So I grew up around agriculture, even though we really didn't even do much of a garden, because my dad's job, when you would have been gardening, that was his busiest season, helping growers. So, and when I was in 3rd grade, Dad that summer started hauling peaches on the weekend. You know, there was 4 of us kids, so lots of mouths to feed. So for kind of some extra income, he partnered up with a local farmer here that's a real good friend of ours and has been one of my best mentors. And he hauled produce down to a good friend of his who farms down in Slocum. We would take a truckload of peaches every Friday night. We'd leave, drive down, set up and sell until we sold out, sometime either Saturday or Sunday, and turn around and come back home. And it was a summer of my life that I will never forget. Dad would kind of let me interact with the customers, set up the little baskets of peaches, take their money, give them change. And so as a 9-year-old, I just thought it was the most amazing thing ever. You know, I mean, I felt like I was 25 and running a business. Yep. And I loved every minute of it. And so I had always loved agriculture. In high school, I was fortunate enough to get a job at Petals from the Past and worked with them all throughout high school and even some into college. And but as I got near to the end of my high school, time, everyone, I feel like now things have shifted some, but no one was really encouraging me to go into agriculture. It was get a job that's going to pay well, get a good job with good benefits. This job comes with no there is no retirement. There are no health care plans. You have to work all that out yourself. So it was not a direction that I was being really strongly encouraged in. And I thought that I would go into the medical field. I thought, well, I'll be a nurse. Everybody wanted to be a nurse. There's nursing jobs everywhere. Good pay, good benefits. So that's what I was going to do. Well, I was had applied to Auburn and was getting scholarship notifications in the mail and for the College of Agriculture. Well, I thought, okay, I'll go into the College of Ag, do my first 2 years where I have scholarship funding and it'll be paid for, and then I can transfer to the nursing school because you're going to have to, first 2 years are basics anyways. I just take a lot of sciences. Well, my first semester, so I signed up to go into agronomy and soils. That was what my dad's degree was in, and it was primarily the reason I chose it was because it was a very strong science-based curriculum, lots of organic chemistries, biologies, physics, all the stuff that I thought, well, I'll need that to be able to qualify for nursing school. Well, as a freshman, I was required my first semester to take basic crop science, and I don't know at what point, how many weeks in, things shifted, but I never again thought of, nursing wasn't even something I ever mentioned to anyone again. I sat in that class, and from my years of, going with Dad and visiting farms, and then all of the experience and hands-on that I got to do at Petals from the Past, I began to learn the science behind, I knew how to take cuttings and how to propagate plants, but I didn't understand why a plant would grow that way. And so beginning to get the science and the information on that, it was like I couldn't drink up enough of it. So totally thoughts of medical field was out of my mind. And so I got a degree in agronomy and soils and then wasn't really ready to enter the real world yet. So what do? You just go for a second degree and they'll let you stay there longer. So I ended up selecting to get my master's. I was already working with the plant pathology department just as a student worker. And so I was able to stay with a professor there and work on my master's. So I got my master's in plant pathology and then actually ended up working for Extension for a couple of years as a home grounds agent and loved that. Well, no way to really make it, but long story short, after 2 years with Extension, I took a position that was not in an agricultural field, worked as a quality control director for a medical device company, and was 110% miserable. I lived for Fridays. I dreaded Sunday evenings because I knew what was coming the next day, and spent 2 years just in a job that I did not love. I was not made to do it. I was not called to do it. And I was absolutely miserable. And in 2011, the tornadoes came through. We had real bad tornadoes that came through Alabama and did lots of damage, Tuscaloosa, north of Birmingham, lots of damage. And so a group from our church went to do a cleanup. And I volunteered to go with them and ended up on the way back riding with a neighbor that's a good friend of our family's and visiting with him. And he asked me, he's asking me what I was doing and what I hope to do and where do I see myself in 10 years? And I said, well, I've got this job that I don't love at all, but it pays well, but I'm pretty miserable, and I hope one day I can save up enough money and retire and farm. Well, Mr. Joe, in his wisdom, said, well, I hope one day to save up enough money and retire and not farm. He had worked for the education system, but always done cattle and had a big sod farm, and he was ready to kind of step out of it, but had one daughter, and she doesn't live in our area, so that was not going to be someone that wanted to come back and take over the farm. So he jokingly said, well, you ought to take over my farm. And I jokingly said, well, you wouldn't have to ask me twice. And 2 days later, he called and said, Taylor, I'd like to sit down and talk with you. Wow. So we met at my parents' house, and he had a piece of lined notebook paper with all of his, accounting and records and stuff on it. And he said, the more I've thought about it, I'm serious. I'd like you to consider taking over the sod farm. Wow. And I didn't even, normally I like to at least lead big questions like that, like, well, let me pray about an answer. And y'all, I didn't even have to pray about it. My soul knew immediately. And I said, Mr. Joe, I'd love to do that. And so what I did was I went to my job that I was working at and told him I'd do part-time. I could work 3 days a week there, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Mr. Joe agreed that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I would work for him, and he would start to teach me the ins and outs in sod farm. Because while I loved agriculture, I'd never done more than steer tractor. There was no operating skills. I'd never put out fertilizer or spread manure or done any of those things. And so I did that, and we did that for about 5 months, and my job came to me, my quality control job, and said, hey, we really can't have you part-time, we really need you to come back to full-time. And it was one of those moments where I just sat there and I thought, I can't. Whatever it costs me, whatever I have to give up, I am willing to give up. And I remember just looking at my boss and I said, I am so sorry, but you're going to have to consider this my 2 weeks notice. Didn't run that past my family or my husband or any of those that were depending on me. But, you know, the Lord just opened doors and worked it out. And that was February of 2012. So this February of this year was our 10-year anniversary that I have been farming full time. And by taking over the sod farm, which sod's great, but it's hard to get too excited about grass. I mean, it's just grass. But by taking that over and having a business that was already established, the equipment, you know, the deal that Mr. Joe worked out with me was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's so often the limiting factor with getting into farming is, you know, it's not accounting where all you really need is a calculator and a computer.
Exactly.
Or a desk. You know, there is so much infrastructure, acres and acres of land, tractors, tools. I mean, the things that you need to get started, even to start small, can be astronomical when it comes to expense. So what he had available for me and a business that was already up and running, already had customers, we were selling product day one, allowed me then to expand to what I really love, which are the fruits and vegetables. And so we now still operate the sod farm. My dad says most years I treat it like the, I don't know, Cinderella, the stepchild, where it doesn't get the attention that it needs or deserves. But it is hard because fruits and vegetables, you know, they always say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And those things that are much more perishable, they're not going to sit and hang around for me to have time to get to them. So they tended to take up definitely more of our time. But again, it really is where my heart is and what I love. So we manage, we grow probably 40 or more different varieties of fruits and vegetables. We rotate fields. Of course, we've got some perennial crops like the persimmons that we're in. We do blackberries. We do blueberries. We have peaches. This is Gordon. Everyone always says, what do you do for deer control? He's just looking for a pet. He's a big old baby. And Gordon is what we do for deer control. As he's gotten older, he's slacking up on that job somewhat, but he's still a good part of the farm, aren't you, buddy? As I mentioned, we grow like 40 or more different varieties of things. So now some of that might be that we have 6 varieties of tomatoes, and I would count that as 6 different things. Right. So you know, this time of year at the farm, usually there is more going on. This year, we've made some shifts and some changes in the farms over the years. I always said I was never trying to be a big farm. I wanted to be a small farm that was conducive to being a mom and a wife and all those things. The goal always seems to be to get bigger. And over the last probably 4 or 5 years, I kind of got caught up in, I think, chasing someone else's dream and realized really 2 years ago, probably after COVID, you know, COVID kind of, for a lot of the world, it slowed things down. For us in agriculture, it really ramped things up. We went to managing, you know, a 500 box a week CSA. I mean, it just really blew up to the point where we were being at the farm until like 11 o'clock at night packing boxes, working 6.5 days a week. And so after that, in 2021, I really decided we really needed to kind of circle the wagons, decide what things were important to us, what things, you know, where did I see myself in 10 years? Where did I want to be? Was I now chasing someone else's dream? And so this fall, normally we do a fall CSA. This fall we had some opportunity to do some traveling. I've also got a grandmother whose health is not great, and I want to be able to be actively supporting and participating in her care. So we've kind of downsized in some areas. We did not do a fall CSA this year. May very well do one next year, but you know, we kind of had that flexibility to not. So right now there's not a lot of crops. We have the persimmons on the farm. That's the only thing that we're harvesting. This is our blueberry field. This we put in the fall of our first year of farming full time. It's probably my most favorite crop that we grow. I love blueberries. I really just love blueberries off the bush though. It's funny, once they've gone into refrigeration, while they're still perfectly fine, they're not my favorite. I love them when they have that heat from the sun in them. We always joke though here at the farm, my mom, her hands are a blur. She can pick blueberries faster than anyone else we've ever had harvest blueberries. Our sweet workers that come up from Mexico, there is no one that can pick a bucket of blueberries as fast as Mom can pick blueberries. But so we've got about half an acre or so here. We're working on clearing some ground on the other side. I would love to put in more blueberries. I will say this blueberry field is at the lowest elevation that we've got on the farm. In hindsight, probably not the best idea. I did it because the elevation that we're at almost perfectly matches the elevation of a good friend of mine that had blueberries. They've long since been pushed up, but it was like a 25-year-old blueberry orchard that just was spectacular. And so I checked his elevation, found this area, and I was like, oh my goodness, we're within 5 feet of being at the same elevation. This will be great. What I failed to consider in my brain that had not had a lot of farming experience at that time was his orchard was sitting right next to a swamp. So it was a wooded area with water. So his low temperatures were significantly different than what we get down to here. So near about every year, if not every, well, near about every year, we spend at least one night fighting freezing temperatures down here. Fortunately, we have never had a season where we've had a total loss. And now as the plants have gotten more mature, what we find is when we do have freeze injury and lose fruit, we almost end up making up for it in berry size. So the berries just get bigger, so it takes fewer to fill a bucket. So while your berry count would technically be down, your overall volume really isn't affected that much. This past year, 2022, we only had one night of a freeze event that we watched. And what was interesting, so we've done everything over the years from have small fires throughout the orchard to burn hay. What we've kind of gotten down to is we have an air blast sprayer that will run. We'll put water in the tank but not actually turn the blower on, the pump on, so it's not blowing water, it's just blowing air, and we'll just continually circle the field. I do about a 3-minute loop, so I want to be back in this spot within 3 minutes and blowing air and just helping to move so that frost isn't settling and helping to encourage warmer air. Sometimes we'll have a 10-degree difference from the top of this hill here, which isn't that high, just to down here on those freeze events. So we just try and get that warm air to move down, because with freeze injury, 1 degree makes all the difference. Well, this year I was riding and circling the field, and the temperature just kept dropping. I had my monitor in the truck and I was watching it just drop, drop, drop. And finally it got down. Normally, well, we'd normally start operating it at 30 degrees and hope to keep it above, I'd love to keep it above 29, but certainly 28. Well, we were down to 19, and I just couldn't bring myself to stop the tractor, because at least when you're on the tractor, you feel like you're doing something. And Dad called me. He had pulled up the cameras and could see that I was still on, and he said, Taylor, might as well go home. It's 19 degrees. There's not going to be anything out there. And y'all, we couldn't finish picking blueberries this year. I don't know where the Lord brought them in from, because at 19 degrees and the stage of bloom that they were at, logic would have told me that there would have been not a berry out here, and it was a fantastic blueberry season. So God's grace, I guess, because of my ignorance of setting it at such a low elevation, but the blueberries have been a wonderful crop here at the farm. Our CSA members love them. A lot of berries that you get in grocery stores are machine harvested, because it is labor intensive. An average person, it's going to take them 30 minutes to fill a bucket. We're a lot of times closer to more of like a 15-minute mark. We'd love to be getting at least 4 buckets in an hour, per harvester, but that's still a lot. And labor is expensive and hard to get, and so a lot of your commercial fields are done and planted in a way that they are then machine harvested. Well, a machine doesn't know the difference in light blue and dark blue. It's just vibrating and catching what falls. So a lot of times you end up with a much less mature berry, and these hand harvested berries are hard to beat. Talking about the different roles that women just in their life in general play, and I think about that a lot, because as a woman in agriculture, it is a traditionally male-dominated world, and for good reason, and that there's lots of reasons that it has been like that. And so as a woman trying to participate and be a part and helping, working part of that world. The difficulty sometimes is that balance, because you're a mom, you're a wife, and you're a farmer. I often think, my husband does not farm. He has a non-farm job. He's actually in the medical field. And so much I feel like of his is just, he gets to focus just on kind of that one. Now, he's also a dad and a husband, so I don't know if that's fair, but the responsibilities of Raven getting to and from school, I think through that every day, and I process that, and I work that typically into my schedule because his shift starts so much earlier. So there's so much that you have to balance that oftentimes farming, like what should be the hardest part of what I do, is really the easiest part. Like, it's the part that I don't struggle with. It's the others, the keeping the house clean, the staying up with the laundry, the figuring out what are we going to do for supper tonight, when honest to goodness I don't want to look at another fruit or vegetable. I just want to go to bed. So there's just so much to balance in the role as a female farmer, because you still have all of the responsibilities that a male farmer has. I don't get to not do something because I'm a woman on a farm, but then you have all of those same responsibilities that come along with the beauty of getting to be a woman and having, children and a spouse and a home and things that you feel. So there's always this continual pull, because a farm is always pulling you. There is always something that I can do here from sun up to sundown, and I will never run out of my to-do list or get things finished, just never. So it is always a pull. And so when I was talking earlier about the changes that we've made in the farm, I want the farm to be a part of my life. I do not want the farm to be my life. There are so many other parts of farming. When I was in college, I went to school with so many kids that grew up on farms and wanted to get as far away from as possible. And all I could ever think was, you are so like, I didn't grow up on a farm. I don't have 300 acres and 100 head of cattle to go back to. But I think so much of it was because that the way they grew up, the farm controlled their family. It was that pull that Dad couldn't leave. There's no summer vacation. There's no, you're kind of always in this crisis mode of some sort, because there's always something going wrong. The weather or the pest or the market, there's always something. And so for them, I think oftentimes they just saw so much negative that why would they want to stay on the family farm? And I have an almost 9-year-old daughter, and I don't want her to see that. If she chooses not to farm, that's perfectly fine. I want her to do what God has called her to do and whatever she is most passionate about and that brings her joy. But I don't want her to not choose farming because she looks at it and thinks, what a miserable life. So I then have to work and set it up in a way where it's not a miserable part of life, where it is this beautiful thing that I get to do, but not something that controls every aspect of my life. So in agriculture, a lot of times we focus so much on sustainability of our crops, of our soil, of our land, when we're looking at it from an environmental perspective and how we're caring for the land that we're responsible for. But over the years, I've come to realize that the most important thing on my farm that needs to be sustainable are the people. Large portion of the people at the farm here are my family, and the ones that aren't my family are all my friends. They're all like family. And so, yes, I want my land to be sustainable, but of more importance, I want my people to be sustainable. So we had to design our farm and our business in a way that encourages them to be sustainable, so that at the end of every season, they're not ready to go and look for a different job. Because that's, we're in Alabama. I imagine there's places in the world that are, it's still hard work, but the weather might be a little bit more conducive to enjoyment. And in August in Alabama is about as miserable as it can get farming. It doesn't matter how many tractors you own or what, how many mechanized pieces of equipment you've got, farming is still hard work. At the end of the day, it is still a physically demanding job, without a doubt.
Taylor, you're wearing a lot of boots around here. I mean, you're mother, wife, caregiver for your grandmother, farmer, business owner and manager. I mean, what else?
Well, I try to help with our church. I try to be an active participant in the community. So I serve on several boards. I try to make sure that my life isn't just focused on me, that I'm pouring into others as well, because I've been so fortunate to have so many that have poured into me. Yeah. So I guess, to manage that, it is a lot, and there's certainly times where I get overwhelmed and at the end of my rope. What I have found has been great is to have that community of people who love me and support me and who come alongside and help. We were planting strawberries today. We were short-handed. Our good friend Daniel stepped up this week and has come every day for his hours that he was available and helped us plant. But even just with life in general, when it becomes too much, the days are too long, the nights are too short, having that support of others. I've got friends that farm that, you know, a lot of times just having people who understand, like I don't have to tell them how tough it is, they already know. And they're an encouragement to me to see them keep going or figure out new ways to do things that help. That, you know, is an encouragement. I also think that I don't know any other field than agriculture where you can see the hand of God more clearly. And so I get those daily reminders that if I'm being overwhelmed, God isn't trying to overwhelm me. That is never, you know, he tells us his yoke is easy, his burden is light. Absolutely, it's hard, but he's not trying to overwhelm or break me down. So a lot of times when I am feeling like that, it's probably an indication that I've put more on my plate that didn't belong there. So being very intentional to recognize my portion and what I'm capable of. I can look and watch YouTube all day and see what other people can do, but I may not be capable of that, and that's all right. I really need to fit my boots the best way that I can fit them and not be trying to fill somebody else's boots. And so I think that being focused on my portion, my responsibilities, and then surrounding myself with those people who love me and lift me up is what helps me wear all the hats and boots that a woman has to wear.
Wow, that is valuable lessons that, like, I'm soaking in. You're like speaking to me.
Well, I have to retell it to myself, you know, all the time for sure. It's easy on a fall day to remember just the good, but it is something you have to always be aware of and mindful of. And our mental health and our mental well-being is every bit as important as our physical well-being.
That's right. What advice would you give to those out there who are wanting to start their own CSA farm? Farm in general?
So do lots of research and homework first. I read everything I could read. I visited websites of farms all over, just gleaned all the information and looked at, you know, to me, if someone's already doing something and they're doing it successfully, mimic that where it fits your, certainly I don't want to be just a replica or a copycat of someone else, so we've tailored it to what works for us in our environment with the crops that we want to grow or have the equipment to grow. But I think definitely do your homework. The other thing that I did when we first got started was I made an advisory board. So I had 10 people that I asked to be a part of an advisory board for our CSA that ranged in size from a person that was a husband and wife with 9 children all the way down to just one individual single person. Ask them, what sort of fruits and vegetables do you buy when you go to the grocery store? How many of those things do you buy? What if we did a box program, what would be additional information that you might need to be able to use that? And so I spent months and months with these questionnaires and back and forth conversations with this advisory board to really kind of tailor our product that we were going to offer to the people that we wanted to be the ones receiving it. So I would say do homework, certainly consider putting together a group of people that can help to offer information, and then start small. I think a lot of the times the biggest problems that I see is we've got great ideas and great intentions, and we think that from the start we need to be the biggest that there is. My first year that we did CSAs, which would have been 9 years ago, we had a 25-member CSA. We've had as big of seasons as 500 members now, but that didn't happen overnight. That's over the course of 9 years of a program. We're capped off now. Once membership fills up at the beginning of the season, that's it. We don't have any more room to grow, because we're where we want to be. We're at what is sustainable for us and for our people and for our farm. So I would definitely say start small and then grow from there, and work in conjunction with others that have same interests and similar ideas, because a lot of times there may be someone whose farm is ideal for growing a particular crop or contributing a certain product that you don't have to also do, and then y'all can work together on that. And we love partnering with other farms and being able to include other items into our boxes or offered to our members that we didn't have to necessarily have our hands in producing. So I think partnerships are phenomenal.
everybody how they can support your farm.
Yeah, so great way. We try to be super active with our Facebook. I would say that we struggle during the summer when we're so busy. Moving into the fall and winter of the months, we typically do a much better job, but you can find us on Facebook. It's BOOZER Farms. We have also started a YouTube channel. We're very new to YouTube and to videos, so that's something we want to grow, and we're going to get your help to help us do that. So BOOZER Farms. We do have a website. It's www.boozerfarms.com, and right now we've moved into our slow season. I say slow and kind of smile like we're not slow.
It's never slow.
But we're working on getting equipment prepped and any repairs that we need to make for next season. We're building a pole barn, we're redoing high tunnels, getting all that kind of behind the scenes stuff done. But as far as for sales and produce and product that'll be available in March, we'll start with that. Typically in February we open up for our spring CSA sign-ups, and those go fast. But that'll be available on our website, theboozerfarms.com. We've got an online store, and so anytime we have product or subscriptions that are available, that's where they can find that.
Taylor, thank you so
Absolutely,
much for
thank
taking
you.
time with us today. She is a busy lady, and I just appreciate you taking the time.
I have enjoyed it very much.
Yes. Y'all go check out her YouTube channel and support her in this new journey.
That's right. That's right. Right. From farmer to YouTuber.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, you guys, thanks for hanging out with us. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next episode of In Her Boots.